So in Warzone, you've always got to be using the best classes around to be at the top of your game and do well in matches. The meta is always shifting, and so today we'll be going through my top 10 assault rifle loadouts that you need to be using in Warzone Season 4. Of course, we've recently had updates as well, which has shifted things a bit, so if you want to be at the top of your game using the best weapons at the moment, you're going to want to stay tuned until the end of the video. But if you do want to jump to a specific part of it, there will be timestamps and chapters in the description to jump to specific guides for each weapon. If you go on to find this useful, be sure to leave a like so that other people can find it too, and feel free to check out any of my other Season 4 guides, like how to unlock certain weapons, level up the battle pass, that kind of thing. But without further ado, let's get into this guide. Okay, so let's start off with the first loadout, and it's going to be the Cooper Carbine first of all. So on the Cooper Carbine, it's a very solid assault rifle that sits sort of somewhere between like assault rifle and SMG. These are the attachments we're going to put on. So first of all, I'd recommend putting on the MX silencer for the muzzle, which is going to give you sound suppression. Obviously, it's also going to help with horizontal and vertical recoil control. We've then gone for the 22-inch Cooper custom barrel, and this is going to make your weapon more highly accurate, controllable, increase the fire rate, as well as reducing sort of scope sway and gun bob, increasing the damage range. Next, we've got the slate reflector optic. You could go for something a little bit more zoomed in if you wanted to, but this is fine, especially for more sort of close quarters combat. Pretty nice and clear and simple. Next, we've got the Cooper 45W stock, and this is a weighted stock that basically gives you better recoil control when you're sort of mounted or crouched or prone or anything like that, so when you're able to lean the weapon on something. And you also have accuracy and recoil control that's better during sustained fire as well. We've then gone for the M1941 hand stop underbarrel, which increases the vertical and horizontal recoil control, as well as the 9mm 60 round drum magazine, which increases your recoil control, fire rate, ADS speed and magazine ammo capacity. Next, we've gone for the lengthened ammunition, and it's going to increase your bullet velocity with no penalty alongside that. And we've gone for the fabric rear grip to increase the aim down sight speed, sprint to fire speed and hip fire accuracy. Finally, for the perks, we've gone for tight grip for perk 1, which increases the accuracy and recoil during sustained firing patterns, and in perk 2 we've gone for fully loaded, which gives you max starting ammo. So that's a nice, solid, decent, all-round good class. It's easy to use, and I definitely recommend this to anyone that's not wanting anything that's too difficult, just wants something nice and simple. This is pretty decent. Next, we've got the FARA 83. Now, a lot of people don't talk about this. It's been out for absolutely ages in like Season 1 of Cold War, but it's a really solid, decent assault rifle, especially because it's got a really good recoil control. So even from far away, it's almost like the gun has literally almost zero recoil. It's really accurate, and it does a fair amount of damage too. So it's pretty good, especially at long ranges. That's what it's kind of built for. So the first attachment we've gone for is the GRU suppressor for the muzzle, which gives you more sound suppression, vertical recoil control, bullet velocity and effective damage range. For the barrel, we've gone for the 18.7-inch Spetsnaz RPK barrel, which increases the bullet velocity, horizontal recoil control, effective damage range and vertical recoil control. After this, we've put on the Axial Arms 3X optic. It's a classic semi-zoomed optic, which is perfect for what we want. And like I say, even with it zoomed in 3x mode, it's still very low recoil with this weapon, so definitely very solid. We've then put on the Spetsnaz grip for the underbarrel, which increases the horizontal recoil control and the vertical recoil control. Alongside this, we've got the VDV 60 round fast mags, which increases the ammo capacity and reload quickness. Alright, so up next, it's another Cold War weapon. It's the Vargo 52. It's a very decent assault rifle, and as a side note, if any of you guys need to unlock this weapon, I've made a guide on how to do that, as a lot of people struggled with it. So there's a guide for how to unlock that in Cold War and Warzone as well, so feel free to check it out if you need to. The attachments we've gone for are the GRU suppressor again, which has several benefits, including sound suppression, better vertical recoil control, bullet velocity and effective damage range. Next, we've gone for the 18.6-inch Task Force barrel, which increases the bullet velocity, horizontal and vertical recoil control and the effective damage range. We've of course gone for the Axial Arms 3X optic as well. Again, it's a nice zoomed in optic. And for the underbarrel, we've put on the Spetsnaz grip, which increases the vertical and horizontal recoil control. Finally, we've gone for the Spetsnaz 60 round magazines, which increases ammo capacity. The next weapon is a little bit interesting. I'm sure some people will be surprised to hear this, but the M13 is actually pretty good in Warzone now. So it's got a really decent time to kill because it's got some good multipliers on it. The damage per round themselves aren't great, but due to the multipliers, especially if you're aiming for like the neck and the head, this is really decent. So we've gone for the following attachments. First of all, it's got to be the monolithic suppressor. What else? And the reason for this is because it gives you sound suppression and increased damage range. We've then put on the Tempest Marksman, which increases the damage range, bullet bullet velocity and recoil control. There's the VLK 3.0x optic, very similar to the Axial Arms 3x optic. And then for the underbarrel, we put on the Commando foregrip, which gives you recoil, stabilization, and increased aiming stability. Finally, we've gone for the 60 round mags, which gives you increased ammo capacity, obviously. Next, we've got the Cold War AK-47. This is pretty decent. It's a little bit more difficult to use, especially because of the recoil. It's got a little bit more kick to it, but it is a really decent weapon. Damage is not too bad, kills people fairly quickly. It's up to you sort of what setting you're expecting to use it in. This loadout is built a little bit more for slightly closer, so like assault rifle distance, but slightly closer combat, but obviously you can still use it for longer distances. So first up, we've got the GRU suppressor for the muzzle, again fairly similar to what we've said before. We've also got the 20-inch Spetsnaz RPK barrel, and this increases the bullet velocity, horizontal and vertical recoil control, and the effective damage range. For the optic, I put on the Microflex LED. It's a nice, simple, slightly magnified optic, so it's built more for sort of like slightly close quarters combat still. Not super close, but not super far, if that makes sense. But if you want something built for slightly longer distances, that's absolutely fine. You might want to tweak the attachments. For example, the Axial Arms 3x optic you can put on instead. It gives you slightly more magnification, but if not, the Microflex LED is absolutely fine. After this, we've gone for the Spetsnaz grip underbarrel, and this increases your vertical and horizontal recoil control. And finally, we've got the 45 round speed mag, which increases the ammo capacity and reload quickness. Alright, so next up, I'm sure a lot of you won't be surprised to hear, we've got the STG-44 assault rifle from Vanguard. This thing is pretty decent, definitely one of the top assault rifles in Warzone, and this is the loadout you're going to want for the weapon. First, we've got the MX silencer for the muzzle, which again, similar to other attachments we've used, gives you increased sound suppression, horizontal and vertical recoil control, and damage range. We've got the VDD 760mm 05B barrel, which makes the weapon more accurate and controllable, increases the damage range, the bullet velocity, and reduces scope sway. We've then put on the SVT-40 PU scope, which is 3 to 6 times magnification, so you can toggle between them depending on what distance you're at. It's a pretty nice scope, so I like using that. And I've also gone for the Constans tactical stock, which increases the aim walking movement speed, the aim walking steadiness, and the initial firing recoil control, so that there's less recoil when you first start shooting with the weapon, which is what you want really, because a lot of gunfights are quite quick, so when you first start firing you want that advantage, and this is going to help you with that. We've then of course put the M1941 hand stop for the underbarrel, which increases the vertical and horizontal recoil control. We've put on the 8mm Kerr 60 round drum magazines, so it increases the ammo capacity, and we've also put on the lengthened ammunition to increase bullet velocity with no downside stated. Next, we put on the Pintar grip, which gives you increased recoil control and hipfire accuracy. Last but not least, we've got the sleight of hand perk in perk 1 to increase the reload quickness. This is quite useful, obviously, if you need to reload in a gunfight, you're less likely to die and be caught out while you're reloading. And we've also put on the fully loaded perk, so you've got max starting ammo, so you've got more ammo and you're reloading more quickly, you're less likely to be caught out and more able to get straight into those gunfights to win more engagements with enemies. Alright, now we've got the XM4. This is a fairly decent, it's not sort of the top assault rifle, but it's fairly decent, pretty good. I do like this weapon. It's a fairly easy to use weapon, if that makes sense. So these are the attachments you're going to want on it. So first of all, we've got the agency suppressor for the muzzle, which increases the sound suppression, vertical recoil control, bullet velocity, and effective damage range. We've then got the 13.5-inch task force barrel, which increases the bullet velocity, horizontal and vertical recoil control, effective damage range. We've got the Axial Arms 3x optic, obviously again nice zoomed in scope. There's the field agent grip for the underbarrel, which increases the vertical and horizontal recoil control. And finally, we've got the Salvo 60 round fast mags, which increases the ammo capacity and reload quickness. Alright, so next up it is the KGM40. This is the assault rifle that came out not too long ago in a previous season of Vanguard. It's a fairly solid assault rifle, and these are the attachments you're going to want on the weapon. First, we've gone for the MX silencer again, which gives you sound suppression, vertical and horizontal recoil control are increased, as well as the damage range. We've got the Reisdorf 720mm shrouded barrel, which gives you recoil control and accuracy, more flinch resistance, reduce scope sway and gun bob, and increase bullet velocity. We've got the SVT-40 PU scope 3 to 6x optic again, so you can toggle between them. There's the VDD 22G padded stock, which gives you more recoil control and recovery, increased movement speed and accuracy. After this, we've got the M1941 handstock barrel with increased vertical and horizontal recoil control. We've got the 8mm Klaus 60 round drum magazines for increased ammo capacity. There's the lengthened ammunition for increased bullet velocity, the leather grip for the rear grip, which increases aim of sight speed, aiming stability, and aim walking movement speed. And finally, we've got the brace in perk 1 to give you increased initial firing recoil control, so there's less recoil when you're first firing with the weapon. And in the second perk, we've gone for fully loaded to give you max starting ammo. And then one of the most anticipated weapons probably in this list will be the NZ41. It's an absolute meta weapon. It used to be sort of a couple of weeks ago, it's sort of absolute top, way above everything else in terms of assault rifles. One of the best guns handguns in the game by far. Now it's dropped down slightly in the sense that the gap between this and the other weapons is reduced. It's still probably the best, if not one of the best assault rifles in the game, but the gap between it is less. So this is still definitely one of the best ones, definitely top tier meta kind of weapon you want to go for. That may be patched obviously in near future, but at the moment, even after the update, that's still the case. And the first attachment I've gone for is the T1 flash hider. There's lots of different attachments you can go for in different sort of builds. This is the one I've gone with. So the T1 flash hider, which gives you more vertical recoil control and muzzle flash concealment, but there's reduced aim down sight speed as a result. We've got the Orb Weaver 360mm BC barrel, which makes the weapon more accurate and controllable, reduces sway and bob, and increases bullet velocity. We've got the SVT 40 PU scope, which is a 3 to 6x optic again, as we said before, so you can toggle between them. We've also gone for the Orb Weaver E pack with increased recoil control, recoil recovery, accuracy, and flinch resistance. There's the M1941 handstop underbarrel, which increases the vertical and horizontal recoil control. The 6.5mm Secura 50 round mags. Now this increases control and mobility, but it reduces power, but the fire rate, the movement speed, and the ammo capacity is also increased. So bunch of pros and cons here. We've gone for the lengthened ammunition again to give you more bullet velocity, to counter the magazine cons. There's also the stippled grip for the rear grip, which increases the recoil recovery and reduces the initial firing recoil. And then finally we've gone for brace in perk 1, which increases the initial firing recoil control, and fully loaded again, which gives you max starting ammo. Alright, last but in no way least, the bar from Vanguard. This is a good high damage weapon. The recoil isn't too bad, and the only thing about this weapon is that it's slightly slower firing, so we've done a couple things to sort of counteract that. The first thing is I've put on the recoil booster for the muzzle, which increases the fire rate but reduces the accuracy slightly. This is a very good weapon though, and it is a bit slow with the fire rate, so if you put this on, it will fire a little bit faster, which gives you more of a chance. But obviously if you're finding that the recoil is too much, you can put on something different like the MX silencer, which reduces vertical and horizontal recoil control. Next we've gone for the CGC 30-inch XL barrel, which increases the recoil control, bullet velocity, scope, sway and gun bob, and flinch resistance. We've got the G16 2.5x optic this time, probably better for slightly closer range engagements, but if you're happy you could also put on the SVT 40 PU scope, either's fine. And then we've gone for the pistol grip custom, which increases the horizontal recoil control, so you're getting less horizontal recoil. Just bear in mind it also increases the end of sight speed, which is quite useful too. Next we've got the Carver foregrip, which increases the vertical recoil control and hipfire accuracy. We've got the 8mm Clauser 40 round mags, which increases the recoil control and accuracy, movement speed, ADS speed, and the fire rate. There's also the lengthened ammunition to increase bullet velocity to counteract that, the stippled grip tape to give you better recoil recovery and initial firing recoil, so there's less recoil when you're first firing with the weapon, which is good. And for the perks we've gone for hard scope, which gives you accuracy recoil during sustained aim down sight, and fully loaded, which gives you max starting ammo. So those are my top 10 loadouts in Warzone Season 4 at the moment. Hope you found these useful. If you did, be sure to leave a like so that other people can find it too. If you're interested in seeing other videos like this, I've also make lots of other guides, how to level up your weapons, the battle pass, unlock guides and challenges, that kind of thing. If any of that sounds good to you guys, feel free to subscribe by clicking the bell icon to stay up to date with all my latest Vanguard and Warzone videos. If you guys have got any alternative suggestions for these loadouts or any other weapons that you think should be in the top 10 assault rifles for Warzone Season 4, then do let me know down below in the comment section, as I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts. And if you guys are interested, I'll also cover some other top 10s. So do be sure to let me guys know your thoughts, and hope you found it useful, and I'll see you guys all on the next one.